so we're about 1 stamina away from having access to the highest tier of stamina abilities, and I'd like to check them all out in this episode. We got Vampire, which leeches health every attack, Cleaver, which does quite a bit of damage and only costs 1 initiative point, also increase the opponent's energy costs. And then finally we got Hadouken, which does a pretty crazy amount of damage but it costs a lot of energy and 4 initiative points, whereas Cleaver, for example, only costs 1, so you can get off 4 Cleavers or 1 Hadouken. I'm thinking a really powerful combo with Hadouken is Burst of Rage, which makes an attack cost 15 more energy, but the attack deals a lot of additional damage, and so I'd like to try to combo that with Hadouken sometime in this episode. To give us hopefully a lot more survivability, I want to pick up Living Armor, which reduces the amount of block damage we take based on our stamina. Our stamina is really high. In order to pick that up, we got to pick up Masochism, which could be useful if we start running out of energy for whatever reason. And then Leg Cannon does a ton of damage if the opponent does not dodge or block, but does cost 3 initiative points, so that's something to keep in mind. Living Armor is going to cost almost all of our remaining GPP. In order to get some more GPP, we can sign up for a league fight. This guy is using a stamina build, and this guy appears using a dodge build. And if you guys saw in the last episode, we countered dodge builds pretty hard, so I think we'll go ahead and choose him. He is quite a bit of GPP away from us, so it's going to cost us a whopping 460 bucks for the fight. But if we do win, we should get a lot of GPP. So as I've explained in the previous video, we destroy dodge builds because of zone control, an ability from the Trapper School. The opponent spends an initiative point when he dodges, and the dodge he's using makes him spend another initiative point. When he dodges, it does reflect damage, so we do take a bit of damage, but he doesn't get any hits off because he has no initiative points left after we attack. Since he's higher rank, we get a ton of GPP, and for hacking fights in this division, we get 200 extra. And because we get so much GPP for hacking, I decided to fight him multiple times, and even when we do surpass him in rank, we still get that extra 200 GPP for winning. In between fights, we do get some story progression. First, we rescue 2 more ghetto boys. The first one's trying to rob a Poos, but we convince him not to go to the dark side by beating up these guys in front of him. These guys do have pretty terrible stats, so even though we have to fight them all consecutively, we do barely break a sweat, and that seriously impresses the ghetto boy, so he's going to join our gym. The second ghetto boy is about to be convinced to take a sip of alcohol, and we convince him that it's a bad idea. Braveheart does make a pretty compelling argument though, so we got to beat him up. We've already fought this dude in a previous league. It's a pretty easy fight. Back at our gym, which we've renamed to Ghetto Boy Daycare, we got a Ghetto Boy on every piece of equipment, which should be making us more money. Not that we really need it. We've beaten the dodge build guy so much that he's giving us 1,200 bucks for a challenge now. And since we don't really need money at the moment, we challenge this guy who's running another dodge build. This guy's dodge build actually ends up doing worse than the previous guys, as we knock him out without taking a single point of damage. For beating him, we get 600 GPP and climb the ladder a few spots. We're still doing good on cash, so we're now going to challenge a strength build. And going into this fight, we've grinded up the 30 stamina required to get Hadouken, plus we grab this attack modifier that makes it do way more damage at the cost of 15 more energy. I'm hoping with mainly just that attack modifier and Hadouken, we can 2-shot this guy. We don't have enough initiative points to use 3 Hadoukens. If we get 1 or 2 more agility points, we'll have 12 initiative points, so that will be enough for 3 Hadoukens. And in a previous episode, I thought these capped out at 9, I think it was I said, because it looks like that's where the meter caps out, but I saw some other fighters in this league having more than 9 initiative points. The reason why I think we can one-shot this guy is because he's running all in. He returns 60% of incoming damage, but increases the damage he receives by 60%. Also, this perk from the strategist school increases our undefended damage, and I'm not sure if this is actually going to work on this guy because he's got this perk Battle Hardened. Any damage he does nothing to avoid is reduced by 1, and you would think that this wouldn't be considered, defending, but in a previous video I was using Bone Crusher against a guy who had that same perk, and that perk protects the opponent from losing initiative points against Bone Crusher. So I'm just not sure if targeted strikes is going to actually increase our damage. The strategist also has some other perks like attacks cost less energy when we're low on energy, increase block effectiveness, and restore some energy, and we don't really care about any of that. I just want to one-shot the guy. And yeah, here goes. 122.56. Oh no, we lose. Wait, we did it again. Yes. Yo, what a fight. We're now up to 7k GPP, and I wasn't sure what Barry was inferring here, but contrary to what he's actually saying, I think we're actually starting to move quite quick. We just challenged 2 dudes that were higher than us and won quite a bit of GPP. Barry says that he thinks some people are cheating, which, you know, we're one of the cheaters. And he thinks that Little Bobo can help him figure out who's cheating, which Little Bobo is behind all the cheating. Little Bobo made Barry a device and we're going to deliver that back to him. And he tells us he's worried about his father and he needs us to tail him to see where he's been going. And it turns out he's been going to Henry's house. And I have no idea what that means. Not sure what's going on in there. It looks like they're just watching a movie together. And yeah, I guess there's nothing to worry about. And yeah, we tell Little Bobo that there's nothing to worry about. And that he's watching Japanese cartoons with Henry. And Little Bobo says that's pretty much exactly what he was worried about. If the other criminals find out, then, you know, it'd be bad. So we gotta make up some lies, like he uses stray cats for target practice. As we're delivering the anti-cheater device back to Barry, we run into what probably is going to be a love interest based on how this scene's going. We walk away forgetting to grab her name, and then in a non-creepy way, we follow her and find out she's getting arrested by the police. And that's going to lead us to a quest to find out what's happening with that, I guess. We tell Barry she got arrested on the way here, and he's like, oh, it's from the cops, I'll just make a call. And we tell him it was by guys with helmets, and he says, okay, no, never mind, you know, forget about her. It was the feds, so she's pretty much screwed is what he's saying. And it's better for us to, you know, forget about her and stay out of it. I guess we picked up her phone or some type of communication device, because we're getting called now by someone that wants to get a hold of her. We asked them what this is all about, and they hang up before giving us any more answers, so I'm not sure what's going to happen with that whole thing. Our next fight is against a guy who's 900 GPP higher than us, so it's going to cost us 1k to fight him. But the guy is running another dodge build, so we absolutely annihilate him. I think the only damage he dealt to us was from some reflected damage from one of his dodges. For winning that, we get a whopping 650 GPP, and the only player left to challenge who's higher than us is the rank 1 player, Jax. This guy is using a strength build, and the same Berserker school of the guy we fought earlier. His attacks deal 20% more damage, but consume 20% more energy. Damage is increased when he's on low health. Damage he doesn't try to avoid restores 3 energy, and any damage he does nothing to avoid is reduced by 1. Unlike the last strength build though, this guy does not reflect damage, and for every attack we spend 2 extra initiative points. He's got 2 of these, and his third defensive ignores any attack that's under 11 damage. Also, any attacks we block cost him less energy. Same with dodge attacks, which we're not going to dodge. If we're up against the ropes, we take double damage, which we won't be because we're not dodging. And he has a chance to restore an initiative point if we fail to block. He's using 3 of these massive shockwave kicks, which make our next block take a lot more energy. And then his other attack deals much less damage by comparison, but does steal some HP. Since he's using 3 of those massive kicks, we're going to use this defensive no kicking. So kicks are blocked more effectively, but I think our chance to block punches are reduced. And we're going to go all out on offensives here. We got a new ability, Energy Leech, which will drain his energy when we attack, and Break Rhythm does as well. And then Contusion, which is pretty far down the stamina tree. I think it's in a pretty similar place as Energy Leech. Will make our blows increase his energy expenditure when he attacks, I guess. And then finally, he'll waste more energy as we attack, I believe, is how this works. For our defensives, we're using 3 living armors, which I think is the best defensive because we have so much stamina. And then for our offensives, we're using Cleaver, which does increase his energy costs, and it does a good amount of damage and only costs 1 initiative point. And then Skullbreaker seems to be the best attack for our build because we don't have much strength, and this attack doesn't depend on our strength, so we will be using 2 of those. And then our school is the Torture School, which I've already gone over. I'll quickly hover over everything that it does. And yeah, we'll begin the fights. I may end up save scumming this and fighting it again with string pots. And holy crap, this fight is nuts. Whoa. No way. What was that fight? So our Skullbreaker punches are mainly applying Contusion, which I think ends up increasing his energy cost by about 50%. Using Cleaver Kick on him does also increase his energy costs by what I'm guessing to be another 50%. The reason why I think those numbers is he's about to hit us with 2 Shockwave Kicks that cost 42 energy each, and the guy has 217 energy total, and he pretty much ends up losing most of his energy here. So I was thinking maybe our modifiers are doing even more than 50%, but he has this perk that makes his attacks cost 20% more energy. His Shockwaves costing 120% more energy each does kind of check out because it'd be 92 energy each, and 2 of those is pretty much all of his energy bar. Once his energy bar is depleted, he takes 166 damage from the knockdown. That's because of our Torture School perk doubling the damage he takes from knockdowns. Well, it's over, I guess. We're now the winner. We're on to chapter 3.5, Down the Memory Lane, which this video is not going to be that long so far, so we'll probably just continue. We are Barry's destroyer, his depollution man. Our upper city passes in the works, so we'll be able to check that out in a bit. But first, Barry keeps talking about donuts, and donuts is a password for someone that works at a Pooh's. It's the janitor, and he has something that Barry wants, and he has some kind of special GPP chip that he stole from evidence, and because we knew the password, he gives us over the chip, and the chip belonged to a dead cop, and Barry wants to know what that cop knew, and we now gotta figure out how to hack the chip. If anyone is gonna know anything about chip hacking, it's probably Lil Bobo. We go to the abandoned house where Lil Bobo is usually at, and he's not there, and he's actually back at the farm, which I don't think he's ever usually here at this time. We ask him if he can hack the chip, and he asks if we can walk into the middle of a police station and take a whiz, which the answer to that is no. If we try to hack that chip, we'll be in prison forever. He says it's one thing to hack GPP software, but it's a totally different thing to hack the chip, and it's impenetrable, there's no backdoors to it, and no one knows how they work. But they do know that as soon as you try to hack it, they send a squad of dudes in helmets right towards you. Lil Bobo doesn't know how to hack it, but Carla may, and she says we can't open it, but we can scan it. And to do that, we'll need a memory scanning device. She sends us on a scavenger hunt, and we bring back the required items. And she's now about to explain how the memory scanner works. The GPP chips that everybody's using are stuck into the memory parts of people's brains. All new memories are implanted onto the chip, and if it's removed, the memories they acquired while the chip was implanted would be lost. This is important because the chip belonged to Barry, or rather the guy that's piloting Barry, Kay. Kay is a secret detective that you meet at the noodle shop really early on in the game, and the GPP chip we now have was the one that he ends up ripping out of his head. Since he ripped out his chip, he lost all the memories he gained while the chip was implanted, so he needed us to use the scanner on the chip to figure out what happened. We find out that a while back, the scientist tells him to go to an address, which ends up being a setup. The police are there ready to arrest him. He makes it out of there, and he's now spying at Lil Bobo's. And we find out these guys are helping who we now know as the feds. The feds have this gun that can evaporate someone and turn them into a hologram servant, and that's enough for Kay to come out of hiding and arrest them all in a pretty heroic but stupid move. Kay is now about to be turned into a hologram himself, but he's saved by his partner, and he's able to run to safety. Kay's old partner's hologram tracks him down, I guess from the GPP chip, and Kay says that he's not really his partner anymore. The hologram tells Kay to bring himself in, and instead he rips out his GPP chip and I guess runs off. And that brings us to Barry's office, and we explain to Kay everything that just happened to him. Unfortunately, I've been carrying around Kay's badge this entire time, which I guess has tracking and listening capabilities as the feds are now coming. For some reason, I'm now worried about Mom, who's been nothing but be a pain since day one. We're too late and the feds are already there, and the lion guy who we saw at the very start of the game is about to turn us into a hologram. When out of nowhere, we're saved by the mysterious Carla, who we've been talking to on the phone. And Carla's not actually a person, she's a car, and Carla the car is now going to drive us to the resistance base. As we're heading there, we learn about the nuclear war that happened, and if I used this script for an essay in school, I would have certainly gotten marks off for plagiarism. The city we grew up in belongs to the corporation, and they installed all the GPP chips into people to control them. We make it to the resistance base where we meet Casey, the dude we gamed with in the sewers, and we meet our actual uncle who tells us we're about to do some animal abuse. Reason being is my dad got this medallion that has magical powers, and Fluffy the cat started gaining magical powers from this medallion. Just as my dad was about to discover who his real father is, Fluffy the cat comes out of nowhere and injects him with something nasty, and I guess yoinks him before anybody can do anything. That's the moment it began. The catastrophe, which I guess was the corporation just nuking everyone else. We're now gonna hack the upper city, which isn't actually a city. It's basically the Matrix, and my dad's being held there. We gotta get there and turn the program off, and we do that by plugging into the Matrix. While in there, we gotta fight this robot boss 3 times, and during the fight we can use any ability. I beat the first phase by mainly using Sucker Punch, which can drain life on hit, and the attack modifier Vampire, which also drains life on hit. For the other 2 phases I failed a bunch and just ended up copying another guy's build. And the fight is designed so that you will fail a bunch, and each time you do fail you gotta go back through all 3 phases. And each failed attempt gives you 3 more skill points to spend however you want, and you can swap your skill points around any way you want, so it's kind of just a matter of trial and error. And I gave it about an hour and then then I just kind of gave up and, like I said, copied another dude's build for the last 2 phases. Anyways, so with the final robot boss defeated, we're about to figure out what the hell this is all about. We learned that this isn't the first time we've been to the Matrix and try to put it into this cat. In fact, we've been here nearly 118 million times somehow. The magical medallion cannot be taken from its owner without beating him, which I guess is why the cat has not taken it. And the owner guarding its powers happens to be my father. For the last 20 years, he's been strapped into this virtual gaming device, and because he's been in the simulation so long, the cat believes he cannot survive without it, but I say we take our chances, because if those people in Sword Art Online survived it, then he can too.